So what song means something to you? I've decided You Are My Sunshine. My mum used to sing it to me and my sister when we were little, and I spoke to her about it recently, my sister, and said I really liked being called a sunshine for someone. And my sister replied that it scared her because she thought it meant someone was going to take her away. And that's why it's important to me. It makes me see things from her perspective.
So a piece of music that means something to me is Starlight by Muse. And I went to see Muse, the band, live in Wembley Stadium in 2007, I think it was. And I was pregnant, and I just remember the words being to do with hold you in my arms, I just want to hold you in my arms. And that was kind of how I was thinking about the baby in my tummy at the time. I was just really looking forward to meeting that little person, and so it really resonated with me, and it's been a really special song ever since then.
My face on this my item move it.
If I had to pick one, I think it's the Alarm's Blaze of Glory, which I ever thought if they ever made a film of my life, it would be the song that plays over the end credits. There's a couple of lines in it that go, there's nothing you shouldn't speak of if you've got something to say, and there's no one to be scared of. Just get them out of your way, and that's kind of how I've tried to live my life, is if you feel like you need to speak out, do so, and don't worry about what other people think or might say.
One of the songs that means a lot to me is Sing by My Chemical Romance. Some of the lines are sing it from the heart, sing it till you're nuts, sing it out for the ones that might hate your guts. And it's just so passionate and talks about how important singing is. And I love it. I often get my children in my youth choir to do it. And there's just such a passion that comes along with the song.
A song that means a lot to me is Smash It Up by The Damned. And The Damned were one of the very first punk bands. They were just right on the cutting edge of everything that was new at the time in the 1970s. And that song for me is like a daily reminder to do your own thing and be yourself. And I think in today's society where everyone's looking at what everybody else is doing, that's a really important message, and that's something that I have to work hard to try and remind myself about every day, because it's a really difficult thing sometimes. So yeah, that's a song that means a lot to me.
Well, that's hard because I like a lot of songs. Most of them from YouTube. Like, my favourite songs from YouTube is probably On and On.
Right.
Because it's such a great song.
Can I help you? Why is it a great song?
It's a good song because of all the tunes they do, and I like the artist.
A song that means a lot to me. Well, at the moment, the song that's running through my mind over and over again isn't actually a song, it's a chant. It's something that I was chanting as we walked down the road in the middle of London last Saturday on a climate protest. And it goes about a bit like this. People gonna rise like water, turn this system round. In the words of my great-granddaughter, climate justice now. I think this is with me quite a lot at the moment because it's something that I'm really passionate about, because it is a justice issue, and for me as a Christian, justice is something that we're called to, and climate justice is something that particularly matters to me.
A song that means a lot to me is Rent Collective's My Lighthouse. It reminds me that even though my son David has died, Jesus has seen him safe to shore, and that he will see me through the storms of grief.
Saint-Germain, Land of, from the album Touriste. Reminds me of being in Valencia Island off the west coast of Ireland in the Lighthouse Cafe, sitting on a big chunky wooden bench alongside a big chunky wooden table, eating big chunky smoked haddock chowder and fresh soda bread, and looking through the big window out across the bay where the wind was whipping up the waves and the sun was shining and it was entirely, in every single way, perfect. And because of it, I bought the album.
And the other question was about if God had a voice, what would he look, what would it sound like? I have absolutely no idea. Probably really beautiful, really quiet, really loud at the same time, full of harmony, full of texture, full of depth. I can't think of anything else.
If God had a voice is a very unusual question, but I think if God had a voice, it would be probably either Jarvis Cocker, because everything that Jarvis Cocker sings is mesmerising in some way to me. I think that. I mean, maybe not everyone will think that. I think the northern accent is absolutely wonderful. The Welsh accent is also really soothing and nice, so maybe God would have that voice. I'm not sure, but that's what I think on this subject.
If God had a voice, what would he sound like? Well, according to everybody in this house, like the God in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. No questions.
He would sound gentle, loving, firm when he needed to be. A really good father figure. I think he'd want to sit down for a cup of coffee with me and take as much time as possible to find out what's going on. When I pray, that's how I feel, that he never feels like I have enough time with him.
Well, we all know that Yorkshire is God's own country, so you can only assume if God had a voice, he'd speak with a Yorkshire accent. But I think God does have a voice. I think we hear it all the time, we're just not always listening. It's the whisper in the trees, the sound of birds singing, it's the sound of a stream floating by. It's a still small voice that you sometimes hear in your head. God's voice is everywhere, you just need to be open to hearing it, to listening to it, and being aware of it.
My name is Jeff.
If God had a voice, it would be the voice of love, of home, of peace.
I have a theory about the voice of God, which goes a little bit like this. I know what the voice of God sounds like. I recognise it because it's my voice. Not that I am God. But we all have a voice in our heads, don't we? All of us are chattering away constantly inside our heads, some of us more than others. I'm a preacher and a teacher and a person of prayer. And if God inhabits, I expect God to inhabit my voice when I speak like this out loud. Why would I not also imagine that God might inhabit the voice inside my head when I speak in the quiet, private place or in secret? That's what Jesus said when he taught the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6. So that's a fine line between kind of, allowing God to be in and inhabit who I am and a bit of madness. But I think I recognise God's voice because I recognise my voice.
I think God does have a voice. I think God's voice speaks to us through almost everything we care to hear, through the sounds of creation, the wind that's blowing around my house right now, the different sounds that water makes, whether you're looking at a river or at the sea, in the voices of each other, certainly through music, and for me as well, through the sound of silence.
He says, I love you.
Who does?
God.